We're joined now by Robert Voltmann, president of the Transportation Intermediaries Association. Bob has run TIA on a daily basis since 1997. Earlier in his career, he worked for the National Industrial Transportation League, the U.S. Interstate Commerce Commission, and a Lone Star State native. He's also worked with the Texas House of Representatives. Thanks for joining us, Bob, and Dan Bearth will be starting the questions.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Yes, and welcome.
Thank you.
Bob, for those who may not be familiar with the Transportation Intermediaries Association, could you tell us a little bit more about who the organization represents and what will be the focus of your convention this week in Orlando?
Sure, thank you. TIA is the voice of the third-party logistics industry in the United States. We were founded in 1978 by the then 14 licensed property brokers in the United States. And over the years we've grown. We represent all aspects of the industry. Our primary member is brokerage-based, but about a third of our members are asset-based companies. About a third of our members are involved in warehousing, ocean freight, air freight. So we cover the whole gamut. And we're probably the only organization that does cover the entire spectrum of third-party logistics.
Bob, the industry seems to be consolidating these days, and with that consolidation, there's investment from outside capital. From what you see in your segment of the industry, what have you seen happen so far, and how do you think this is going to change the way that logistics services are provided to shippers?
I think what's going on in the marketplace with consolidation is really exciting. The level of involvement from Wall Street and other investors, the growth of private companies within the marketplace is super exciting. But we don't see this as like a roll-up industry. What we see it is a natural progression as the industry matures. And then we see some striation of the size of companies serving different sizes of shippers and providing different levels of services to them. And the way we talk about it is, you know, you think back to when Lowe's and Home Depot were expanding, and it was going to be the death of the small hardware store. Yet, we still shop at a Village Hardware or the local hardware store because they provide unprecedented service. So we're excited by what's going on in the marketplace with the investment, the level of sophistication, the level of recognition the marketplace is receiving, but we're not worried that we're going to end up with a half dozen or a dozen large companies.
Do you think this is going to be a tendency then for very large shippers to work with the largest brokers as compared to small to medium-sized shippers are going to work with the corresponding brokers and forwarders?
You know, it's anybody's guess what the future will be, but that's what I think. Now there'll be room to play with smaller players at local DCs, but we do see that kind of
distribution centers, you mean?
Yes, okay, thank you. We do see this kind of striation versus size. The one thing that equalizes this industry as opposed to others is there are a number of third-party software vendors that provide the same tools at a really affordable price for the smaller and mid-sized players to offer the same level of service and sophistication as the biggest players are doing.
Technology seems to be a big driving factor throughout the logistics industry these days, as Dan discusses in the supplement. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has recently implemented a higher level for security bonds in your industry for brokers and forwarders. How is this going to change your segment?
What's happened is it's made the new entrants into the marketplace stronger and better able to compete. Property brokers touch 86 cents of every dollar they touch belongs to motor carriers. And TIA members want to see motor carriers paid every time they move a load. So we actually pushed for raising that surety because we wanted more secure companies coming into the marketplace that could better protect the carrier's money. You know, when you start a pizza place or a donut shop, you're risking your own capital. But if you come into this marketplace and you don't have enough capitalization to survive, you're not risking your capital, you're risking the motor carrier's capital. So it's not just your business on the line, it's the motor carriers as well. And we don't think that's right.
You mentioned new carriers, new entrants, or excuse me, new brokers and forwarders. Are you seeing an influx of new startups? What are the barriers to entry like these days?
Well, the barriers to entry are the same as they always have been. It's working capital. And the increase in federal surety requirement just recognized that level of working capital that's needed. Because of the way the marketplace works with the brokers paying the carriers and then being paid by the shipper, the broker has to be able to float those receivables. So that's why we talk about working capital necessary to operate in the marketplace. And you don't want to start out in the business borrowing payroll.
Speaking of working capital in your operations, when you talk to a trucking executive these days, you might go at most 15 minutes before you hear about driver shortage. That's the pet issue for trucking. As far as brokers, forwarders, and other 3PL providers, what is keeping them up at night? What is worrying them? And on the other side of the coin, are there any great opportunities that have them interested?
Well, capacity is an opportunity on the logistics side, which is why we see so many motor carriers starting or expanding their brokerage logistics-based operations. Because we do see new entrants into the marketplace as carriers. We've been told by DAT that they had a record number of new carrier sign-ups in January and a near record in February. So owner-operators are coming back into the marketplace, and the only efficient way to access that level of capacity is through a third party. It makes no sense for shippers to invest in the technology and people to get to that level of carrier. Whereas by working through a third-party logistics company, they can leverage that investment and turn it into a variable cost.
You mentioned technology. Is any of that helping brokers and forwarders find the capacity they need?
Absolutely.
For instance?
Well, the load boards, carrier monitoring and tracking. Every operation has a sophisticated procedure for bringing new carrier customers into their mix. That's their secret sauce, if you will. Now, you asked about what keeps my members awake at night, the 3PLs. Believe it or not, it's staffing. Finding quality people that want to work is one of the biggest things. And then the frustration of dealing with a government that seems incapable of getting out of its own way in that of industry. The government seems to be doing everything it possibly can to exacerbate the capacity shortage. With new requirements, proposing new requirements on hours of service, higher levels of insurance, new ways of doing drug testing, yada, yada, yada. They just seem to be ratcheting up even more and causing more drivers to exit the marketplace. And then the other thing that keeps my members awake at night is that there is no clear-cut national standard for engaging motor carriers. So when they hire a motor carrier that they think is safe based on the criteria in their state or the tea leaves they've read from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, some judge in some other state could throw out some whole new standard if that truck were to be involved in an accident. So we're looking for some clear-cut line that says this carrier is safe, this carrier is unsafe.
This sounds related in a way to the CSA scores, the Compliance Safety Accountability Program by FMCSA. Has that affected your membership?
Well, CSA is an internal tool for the agency to use in developing that safety rating. But the agency has not yet come forward with their safety fitness determination rulemaking. So TIA, ATA, and the National Private Truck Council, OIDA, and the Bus Association have been working together on the CSA subcommittee to effect change to CSA. I'm not sure the agency is still listening.
Dan, I think you had something you wanted to add?
Okay. Well, you've been talking about many of the issues confronting the logistics industry, which are interesting. Could you talk a little bit broader about the overall economic outlook and what it looks like for your members in terms of business conditions now and in the future?
We see, Dan, we see the industry continuing to grow because of tight capacity, and capacity is going to be tight for the foreseeable future. You know, we haven't turned over a rock and found a whole herd of new drivers. So while there are new entrants coming into the marketplace, it's still not enough to meet capacity. Our population is growing. Because of our low cost of energy, we're building chemical plants here at a tremendous clip. So there's a lot of ketchup and mustard and plastic that has to be moved to market, and that's just going to continue over the years. So carriers are great at managing their fleets. Shippers are great at making that ketchup and mustard and the plastic. And my folks are great at marrying the two and moving those goods to market in an efficient and effective manner. So we see that continuing to grow as a marketplace. The 3PL marketplace is already 1.5 times larger than the beer industry. It's 1.5 times larger than the electronic gaming industry. It's almost 5 times larger than the candy industry. Yet, outside of us, there aren't that many, and our members, there aren't many people who know that it even exists. But it's going to continue to grow. And that's what, Jonathan, the Wall Street investors see. You know, Brad Jacobs talks about brokerage growing at 2 to 3 times GDP. We don't see that slowing down anytime soon.
I see. All right, great. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good luck in Orlando.
Thanks.